Hello, all you hardcores. Big P here. We're just waiting for Richard to log in. So should be any second. Usually on point, Richard. Uh, Here we go. Where he's gone. Waiting on you, lad. Here we are. He's here. How you doing, Richard? Unmute yourself, lad. Hang on a second. Ask to unmute. Wait a minute.
You
Oh, you're still sitting, and then yeah.
hear me? Can you see me?
Yeah, how are you?
Yeah, I've done it once or twice, yeah.
What are you doing with bricktop bins on off Big Malk?
I need them for reading these days, bud.
There.
And when I'm on laptop. Yeah, it's a sign of age, I'm afraid. Can you see me
Yeah.
okay?
How are you? Yeah, how are you?
I'm all right, yeah. I'm just having a day at home today. Got some, like, you know what it's like when you're traveling. When you get home, you've got to do all little stuff that you can't do on a day-to-day basis when you're away. So little admin stuff and little errands and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I'm just having a day at home.
Okay. Have you been watching much boxing, Richard?
I watched the Allen fight the other night. And I've been watching a tiny bit of stuff on YouTube regarding what's coming up and what's happening, and a little bit of what's next for Fisher, next for Allen, and that sort of stuff, and a couple of cards that are coming up, stuff like that.
Yeah, good. What did you watch? What did you think regarding Elmer Fudd and Lazy Rhino? Now you've watched it, and obviously they watched it a couple of times now. Who did you have to win beforehand?
I had Allen to win. Um, I didn't necessarily think it was going to be as quick as that. I thought it might have been a bit of a repeat. I thought it was definitely going to be a repeat when I saw how heavy you were.
Yeah.
Obviously, after that fight, they've come back and said that it were a part of the game plan.
What to
To
absorb
sort of
body shots?
absorb body shots. I'm
Load of
not sure I
rubbish.
believe
Load of
that.
rubbish.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But whatever happened, I think it was just too big a gap for Fisher. I don't think we can read too much into like sort of Allen's performance apart from he beat somebody who on paper he should beat really. And he got some money for it on both fights. So from that point of view, I'm pleased for him. I hope he can make a little bit more money out of the game and not get not have any further damage that he's had to endure over the last 10 years because he's had plenty on as we've talked about in the past.
Yeah. Yeah. You think Dave Allen's a bit more cunning than people make him out to because he's had this thing going for years. Oh, it's Daft Dave and big cuddly teddy bear and boy next door and all that. But he gets himself opportunities on back of what?
No, I don't think he's more cunning than people make out. I think that in ring we know that he's been around a long time, and he's got plenty of experience. He's got plenty of ring smarts to old man people at a certain level to try and do a bit and not use too much energy. He's cunning in that way at a certain level, which I think showed the other night. I think when he steps up, that don't work for a lot of people who they understand he's not fit. They understand what his strengths are. They understand what his weaknesses are, and they're going to be too much for him at a certain level. In that sort of environment in ring, yeah, he's going to have too much for people because he's just been around so many people. He's sparred the best. He's fought some of the best. You'll have got to learn from that. So I think he's cunning enough inside ring. I don't think he's particularly smart outside of ring because you can't do the same stuff all the time mess around, not train, not eat, not take it seriously, and expect to do very well.
He's
He's
walking
been
around with your
lucky.
belly hanging out there, mate. And everybody
Yeah,
applauding it, saying, yeah, he did it to absorb body shots. It's the biggest load of crock I've heard in my life.
yeah, he's been in some ways he's been lucky to get some of the opportunity. Well, he's been lucky. He's fallen on um, this opportunity, and he's to his credit, he's took full advantage of it.
Yeah,
And if he's clever again, if him and his team are clever again, and they match him in right fights, he can probably get a little bit more money out of game and set himself up not for like a life of luxury, but at least mortgage paid, a bit of cash in bank, a nice car. As I always say, if you're in a situation of FU, if you ever reach a situation of FU, that should be enough for everybody. And there's different levels of FU. Uh, for me, FU is you've got a bit of money in bank, you haven't got a mortgage, you've got a car that's going to last you 10 years, and that's good enough. You can turn around anybody if you ask to do something you don't like or you don't want to do, you can say FU because you've got no immediate financial worries. It doesn't mean say you're loaded. It just means say that most of your commitments are taken care of. And if he can get into that situation, he might already be in that situation. That's good enough, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. I mean, they're talking Dylan White, aren't they? The Gaddon, them, his next opponent. They've heard a whisper.
Well, that'd be a bad. I mean, I think Dillian White passed way past his best, way past. But and I knew that he made hard work of it when he fought Dave Allen. What is it now? 7 or 8 years ago since he fought him. 8 years ago.
Yeah,
You tell me.
yeah. Long time.
So yeah, and I don't think that were a good Dillian White. I think that were a tick over fight. I don't think that were anything like. I think that would be a bad night for Dave Allen. But but if he can get a decent amount of money for it, it might be worth a gamble. It might be worth a gamble that fight. But he might be able to just survive again. But one thing about Dillian White, he can punch, and it could be a bad night for him. But he shouldn't be expecting to take that fight for a couple of $100,000, should he? He should be getting a lot more than that if he took that fight.
He'd be on 250 if he fights White, or 200 grand or something, maybe 250.
That's not enough, Russ. For me, that's not enough to
I know.
potentially.
But Dylan White's no great shakes. He's never even won a European.
No, but they could fill an O2 out, couldn't they?
Oh,
They
with
could
Dylan
fill an
White
O2.
Rhino, yeah.
They could fill an O2, and if they fill an O2 with 20,000 people,
Should
that's
be
got
half a
to
million
generate.
each.
That's got to generate a total revenue between 4 and 5 mil. Just doing some rough arse math. That's got to create a total revenue of 4 or 5 mil. Now there's costs to come out of that, including their purse. But if they can't share 1.5 mil between them out of that 5 million revenue, and again, this is just rough off. I haven't got any evidence towards this, but just on ticket sales, 20,000 people, TV rights, sponsorship, it's got to generate a total revenue of somewhere in that ballpark. They should be sharing a purse of about 1.5 mil between them. So if it's a 60-40 split or a 70-30 split, that's 450, 500 grand for Rhino on a 70-30 split. And, after tax and costs, he might be banking 350 or something like that. So maybe it's worth it. Maybe it's worth a gamble. But at 250, what he's going to take home after that, potentially having the same sort of problems he had after he fought Price and Ortiz, he don't need it at 33. I think that's a gamble too much. So would you want to potentially get really damaged internally severely or some brain damage severely for 250 grand?
Well, I think Dylan White's shot to shit. I've seen him with Tete, and I think Dave Allen knacks Tete. So I think Dave should take that rematch if he gets the Dylan White bounce. So they're not going to give him that much. Dylan will be A side. But you'd say Dylan White's shot to shit, wouldn't you, really, looking at him?
Yeah, but the fear of sounding sort of repetitive and cliched, the last thing to go is your power. And I still think he can punch. So if he catches, if he's hitting, if if Dave Allen stood in front of him all night because he can't get away because he's too fat, no matter what his trainer says about him being conditioned and fit, I don't believe it. He looked tired himself, and all he were doing were coming forward in his face. He wasn't dancing. He wasn't throwing a lot of punches. I've not looked at box stats. He didn't throw a lot of punches himself. He were picking them. Good shot selection, but it were good shot selection. The same as it would be selecting your shots on a punch bag. You're going to
You'd
look
have,
good.
whoever he fights next, you're going to have Eddie Hills there saying, oh, he's British European level. He's taking it serious now. Something he should have done years ago and that. But I don't believe that shit. Not when you're 19 stone with a big derby on you. That your protector won't even go around his belly, right? That's how bad it was. And slobbing about round ring. Right, and he's stronger, faster, quicker than a speeding bullet. I ain't buying into that shit. And Dylan White's another one that's got fat and out of shape. And his punch resistance dropped. And he don't throw as many punches or do as many feints or slipping and sliding. You've got shot fighters here not taking it serious, thinking they can just punch that ticket for more pay from fans, and it's wrong. Dave should have been coming in 17 and a half stone for that Fisher fight. He didn't because he knew Fisher were garbage. That's the bottom line.
You're probably right. He probably knew what he'd done right and wrong in first fight, and like I say, he probably knew he got his number, which proved to be right. I just don't think he's got it in him to knuckle down. You know, being in gym, turning up on time on the days you're supposed to train, isn't being dedicated. People go down to Bannatynes every day at the same time, and they walk on treadmill. They do a few weights and they leave. That's not being dedicated, is it? You don't see any training footage of him. The training footage that you saw 2 years ago were in his back garden on pads with his dad. It's nonsense. So I don't believe it either. You know, if you're that confident in that he's so conditioned and fit, publish your statistics. Publish what you're doing in gym. Show some footage of you running up to Conisbrough Castle and back down 20
show
times.
some footage of you running up viaducts.
Yeah.
Conisbrough viaducts, there and back. Get up there, get round there. It's quite hilly round there. It's a good 4 or 5 mile run. Go do that like I used to do. Because I don't see him doing that. But if he can pick and choose fights, he don't really need to put a training camp in, does he? He can keep getting these gimmicks.
If you can get gimmick fights or fights at that level, English level, and he can pick up, I don't know, anywhere between 50 and 150 grand to go, and it's not going to be an hard night's work for him. Good luck to him. Because we've said this before, we all like him. There's nothing not to like about Dave Allen, and you want him. You'd like to see him in a decent situation from a life perspective, in a decent situation. You know what I mean? And if he can maximise that opportunity now, good luck to him. But I'm not buying. I'm like you. I'm not buying what he's saying. I'm not buying what his training team are saying. Anybody who does, well, you know, I've got a bridge I want to sell you. But you know, I've got a Ford Escort I want to see you sell you with 5,000 miles on the condition, one owner, 10 grand. But you know, we all like him, but that doesn't mean to say we've got to believe all the crap that's said and we've got to buy into it. And
no, listen, once they're talking about weight and this and that, listen, let me just say this to you. Any trainer worth his salt, right, will just turn around to you and say, get on scales, or any manager. Now, Dave Allen came into offices at Dennis's. Dennis, have you been training? Yeah, I've been training. You haven't been this week? Oh, I've been training at home. I've been doing my runs and this and that. No problem. Get on scales. Gets on scales. There you go. Collect your fucking cards. That's it. That's how he ended up outed from Big Ron's. Why should Big Ron give him £1,000 a month for train pass and £2.5 a fight if he's not going to put the effort in? Do you see where I'm coming from?
A business. Yeah, Big Ron's a businessman and a realist. He's not going to buy into any crap.
Well, he fired Rhino out at camp after Fight Academy, when he was 6-0 and a draw, that draw he had with that French guy, that more or less sealed his fate with Dennis.
And how much will
So
he got for that, Russ?
nearly got 2.5 grand for that. He didn't do a ticket. I don't think he did more than 7 tickets, to be honest, in any fight with Dennis. So what's that? 7 fights, 49 tickets, if that. But Dennis said he had ability, but the problem were getting him there because he doesn't drive, David, does he?
I don't know. No, he doesn't. No, I've seen footage of his missus driving him about. You're
Yeah,
right.
he
Yeah.
don't drive, so he'll have to get a bird who's going to show for him. And there you go. But point I want to make is he's got ability. It's just frustrating that he can't get into some sort of rhythm. You know, yeah,
Yeah, but I would have been frustrated with that 7 years ago, Russ. I won't get frustrated with it now, mate, because it's the same old story, and I ain't got time for just pony all the time, just listening to the same stuff. I'm like it outside of this sort of stuff. I won't deal with it in my own personal life. If somebody's telling you some rubbish, you just ignore it and just take it for what it is, and just you won't invest in somebody who are just telling you a load of cobblers, would you, in your
well,
own life?
no.
So why would you do it when you're in a sport that you like to watch and love? I just switch on now when fights happening
Right then.
and
So when
take it
Jamie
from
Moore
there.
comes out and said he's had a fantastic camp and he gets on scales 265, what's the first thing you think?
I think he's had a fantastic camp relative to what he usually does. He's turning up on day he's supposed to train and he does a bit. That's what they think a fantastic camp is for him. I
Yeah.
couldn't have asked any more. Well, what objectives did you set to come in at? It's all right after the fight saying we've this is game plan we set. What objectives did you set for weight? What objective did you
£35.
set for your?
They missed the target by £35.
Well, there you go then. So it's just a load of nonsense. He's had a touch. He's got a decent. He's got one or two decent paydays out of his career, last couple of fights, for him. And if he don't turn around and think, right, how can I actually maximise this and just have last 2 years of my career getting out relatively unscathed and banking a bit of money. Well, like I say, he's daft as a brush. Do I think he'll do that? I don't think so. I think he'll just go back to his lazy ways. And compared to you and me, that's probably not lazy. Compared to a boxer, full-time boxer, it is lazy, and that's what I mean. He's doing more work than you and I and everybody watching this channel, I'd imagine, apart from, maybe a few fitness freaks that might tune in, I'm not sure. But for a professional boxer, he's not. And that's the difference.
Yeah. See where you're coming from. He's Dylan White parked up by Bricktop. He's a Queensbury fighter now, isn't he?
I don't think he's parked up because I can only go on what Bricktop's saying, and Bricktop's saying one interim fight, then there's a big fight for him round corner. So I think they're just in process of trying to work out what that fight is. He's on card in here, Fabio Wardley fight.
Yeah.
So I can't remember his opponent, but he'll fight. He'll have that fight, and then I think Bricktop will do an assessment. Then he'll say, right, you're at this level. This is can either give you a big fight, but you're going to be a lamb to slaughter, but you're going to earn some money out of it, or you're showing me a bit, and we're going to put you in a 50-50 or a 60-40 fight with somebody, and here's your chance. But he's on back end of his career. He has been for the last year or two. He's on decline. How steep that decline is, I'm not sure. But there's a lot of fighters that still have an half decent career once they've gone over the peak. You don't mean to say I'm not saying he isn't shot, but there's a lot of fighters who are on the decline but not totally shot, and they still have a good end to the career. Whether that's him or not, time will tell.
Lawrence Okoli against Wardley. Would you like to see that, Richard?
Yeah, I want to see. Yeah, I would. To answer your question, I would. I like to see any good British fights being made. So I can't get enough of them. I think because if it gets back to the old days, the old sports night days and stuff like that, where they got to fight each other because there wasn't a lot of money in the game, and there wasn't as much, there wasn't as many outlets that were filming it. So you got a lot of good British level fights, didn't you? Especially in lighter weights, in old middleweight divisions and welterweight divisions. You got a lot of good fights. I'd love to see that again. So if that goes into that bracket, and we talked about this, I think, a little bit on last video. Fabio Wardley's grown on me a lot. Again, I think he's a decent kid. He is dedicated. He speaks well. You've got to forget about his white collar now. If he does well, if he were to unbelievably win a version of a world title from his background, I think that's an amazing story, and I
Yeah,
hope he does well. So I'd like to see him. I'd like to see him fulfill his potential, and what a story that'd be.
yeah, yeah.
Bloody hell, I sound like somebody like I sound like a flipping broadcaster when I say stuff like that, but it's true.
Yeah, yeah. Yui, where does he go now?
Got no idea. I were a big fan of Yuri. I thought that's a fighter that, whether it's his fault or it isn't his fault, he's missed the boat, and I don't know why. I know part of the reason why, and that's because he's not being active, whether it's through injury or illness or whatever. And he's missed the boat. And I don't see any. There's no reason for me to believe, or anybody to believe at this moment in time, that he's going to be able to string several fights together. There's no evidence that he's going to be able to do that. And my view is that the only way he's going to get back into mix is he's going to have to put himself in a position where they can't ignore him. So he's going to have to build himself up to like win a British title, get it mixed there, dominate the British scene if he could, and put himself in a position where he can't be ignored. But what he can't do is, because he's not got I don't think he's got a ranking in top 10 now. I'm not sure, but I don't think he has. He's not ranked in top 10. He's not being active. He's always got loads of problems in background. He's still relatively young for an heavyweight, but he's not a young heavyweight anymore. He's not a baby anymore.
Yeah,
So
13
I
year
don't.
pro,
Yeah, so I know he started. I know he started really young,
18 year.
but
Yeah, he should have done another 4 year at EIS, shouldn't he? Really?
he, no matter what problems he's had, I I don't see any evidence that it's going to change. So the only way you can see that it's going to change is in front of your eyes, and that's for him to have 3, 4 fights a year for the next 2 years, and then see where he is. But if it's just in limbo, when was his last fight? 6 months
A
ago,
week
7
ago,
months
on
ago,
it, a couple of weeks ago,
a
Dan
couple of weeks ago.
Gerber,
Yeah, it was. Yeah, sorry.
sparring
Before
partner.
that, it was 6 months ago. So it looks like he's doing a little bit of that, but I'd like to see him. Like I say, I think the only route for him is, because no matter what you say about him, he's not somebody that he's not somebody's first choice as an opponent, because he's got a lot of ability. He can be very awkward. He's been in with top level opponents, and it's not been easy for them. He's never been hammered by anybody. So he's somebody who potentially people are going to avoid. They're not going to take him unless they really have to. So unless he can bring something to the party in regards purse, a belt, or something else, why do people want to fight him? He's not a massive ticket seller,
No.
and it's a real shame, isn't it?
Yeah. What about if Huey beat Dave Allen, Fraser Clark, and then Wardley? That'd be a good run for him, wouldn't it?
Um,
Or Lawrence Okoli after Fraser Clark and Dave Allen. If he fought them three, he'd like be putting his Senate window. But you can't be fighting these bin men he's fighting, ranked 606, and then expect to get, some big paydays off that, can you? Because they're nothing fights, aren't they?
I think that somebody like Dave Allen wouldn't take that fight unless there were a lot of money involved. And I don't think that fight would generate a lot of money. That won't sell an O2 out. I don't
What,
think.
Huey and Rhino?
Yeah, I don't think he'd sell. Maybe it'd sell like I don't know, Pons Forge out, something like that. But it's not going to
Yeah,
generate a lot of revenue. And Dave knows Huey like better than probably most people know him. He's sparred with him enough. He's been in that
yeah,
camp. I
yeah.
think Peter's commented recently that he's like a son to him. So
Oh,
he
yeah.
knows what he's getting. Well, I don't know how true that is, but what I'm saying is, he, what I'm saying is, Dave Allen knows him. He knows what he can do.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that Dave would not take that fight unless there were a decent amount of money on the table. And we know that Huey's had a lot of fights that have fallen through. And for what reason? I'm not talking about the injury. I'm talking about just fights that, for whatever reason, haven't been made when he has been fit. Now, why is that? Has he priced himself out? They talk about their opponents pricing themselves out quite a lot. But what do they expect an opponent to want to fight Huey? What would they expect? Unless it's a journeyman who's got a different mindset, anybody who's on the up, why would they want to fight Huey unless there was a decent purse on the line?
Because it's
And
an hard
unless they
night's
can,
work with Huey's defensive style, isn't it?
yeah, and unless they can generate, it's a bit of a catch-22. They've got to generate revenue to be able to pay the opponent a lot of money, unless
Yeah.
somebody's willing to take a loss as a long term solution to get him where he wants. I mean, people have done that before, haven't they?
Yeah.
People invest in fighters. They're willing to take a couple of hits on the shows with a view to getting at the back end when things pick up and get better. So that's the only option, I think. Somebody's got to dip into the pocket, give their opponent a decent amount of money to, like you say, put himself in shop window again. Because it's only 3, 4 years ago since he got a top 10 ranking. He were right there. He's challenged for a world title, I think twice now, hasn't
Oh,
he? Huey
once.
fought fought
Parker.
once, and then he fought Parker, didn't he?
He fought
Parker, and
Parker
did
in
he,
18, 7 years ago.
right, and did he fight Pulev for a world title?
No, I didn't fight Pulev for the world title. That were
Not Pulev,
Eliminator.
no,
Eliminator.
Eliminator. Okay.
IBF
He's been
Eliminator.
he's been in mix, and he's got to get himself back there. But that were a long time ago, so I think it's a reset. And but I don't think you can keep, calling out potential opponents, pricing themselves out if they're not it's not it's going to be their nature to get at least some reward for fighting a very difficult opponent in Huey. And like I say, it's a catch-22. You've got to generate revenue to be able to pay people. And if they're not generating revenue, somebody's going to have to dip in the pocket and take a hit.
Yeah. Yeah, I see where you're coming
There's
from.
no way around that.
Yeah. Okay, Joshua Fury. We'll finish off on this. Does it happen?
Yeah,
Yeah. You think
yeah,
that's next for both of them?
yeah. Because as much money as they've got, I think the slightly as much money as they've got, they always want more, and I think that counts more for Joshua than Fury. Joshua's openly said that he has nightmares about it all going, and he don't want to be in the same position as people like Tyson and Evander Holyfield, where it's all gets spent. And I think he just can't stop himself being motivated to accumulate more. So it's very important to him that. So I think that's one of the main drivers for him.
Yeah.
He just wants to, and there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I don't think there's anything wrong with being worth 500 million and being wanting to be worth 600 million. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Good luck
Yeah.
to him. But I think that's a main driver for Joshua, and so I think he'll be pushing for it.
Yeah.
Mm. What do
I
you
think,
think?
well, I don't think Eddie's going to risk Joshua with anybody who's half decent, really, because if he gets flogged again, I think that fight goes forever, doesn't it? It goes away forever. If you put Joshua in with somebody like some top 15 guy and he lost, well, where would they go with him then?
I think timing works as well, Russ, because it sounds like, again, you don't know what to believe, but it sounds like Tyson's getting warmed up to coming back. I don't know, but he looks like
Yeah.
he's in training, just at the start of training. And if you believe what you hear about Joshua, he's had that arm operation and he's just starting to get back into training. So that sounds like from a timing point of view, that could work out for like a September fight in this country at the latest, and September, October, November fight for Saudi, or any time in Saudi, to be honest. But if they were struggling for time and they couldn't put it on in this country, they could go to Saudi and still generate a lot of revenue. I think it needs to be in this country for obvious reasons, because it's
Yeah.
going to sell out Wembley 3 times over. And that's, they're going to bill it as we're giving fans what they want.
Only
We
because
don't want to
Turkey's
put it on
got
his
rid of
side.
him, and they'd have to put it on at Wembley to generate the most dough.
Mm.
Because Fury can't go to America, and Turkey don't want to work with certain people. So unless they buy the fight, but so they'd have to say for fans. Well, what about for fans when they were all in Saudi milking it, and we all had to pay per view because nobody could afford to go out there.
Listen, mate, it all goes out at window. We've all got memories. We can all remember Tyson Fury saying that Las Vegas is his home. He's never going to fight anywhere else in America in his career. He said that 20 times 3 or 4 years ago. And then as soon as situation changes, they've got to go back on what they said because they've got no choice in some cases. So
Yeah,
that you just got to take with a pinch of salt, and yeah, they just do what they want. They go where the money is, and that's natural. I'd do exactly the same. It is what it is. If fans are going to believe 90% of what's said on social media, YouTube channels, radio stations, TV stations, well, that's up to them. Like I say, I've got a bridge I want to sell them if they do believe it. What you've got to do is just wait till the fight happens and then enjoy it for what it is. But they'll just go where money is. So wherever most money is, Saudi, Wembley, wherever, they'll go there. Unless, like you said, they can't physically go over there, which I understand is what the situation is with Fury at the minute.
yeah. Okay. Well, listen, thanks for coming on, Richard. It's been a pleasure. I hope you're well.
Yeah, I'm all right, mate. I'm as well as can be expected. I'm chilling out, and I know that you're okay this week,
Yeah.
so that's good.
Yeah.
And we'll I'll see you again shortly, mate.
All right. Well, listen, you take care. Cheers, pal.
All right, mate. Good to
Bye.
speak to you. See you soon.
Good to speak to you. See you soon, mate. Well, that was Richard from Rotherham. Women love him, men want to be him. That's because he's got a boat. And that's about it, really. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment. Go on, peace out. Max, don't even ring me till you're a bridge away.